reading score?
You're at 200-something%.
I mean the star reading. I never got my score.
For AR or for star?
Star reading.
Oh, okay. I sent it to you yesterday. You must have already been logged off, though. Hang on, everybody's going to see it. Hang on.
I don't want to see it. I want to see it.
It's none of your business what Cam's score is. Hang on. Cam. Or Sam.
Mine's 6.4. I don't know it. Ethan. Wait, can I know mine?
Your star score? I messaged you guys yesterday. You guys all logged off, though.
Yeah, but you couldn't hear us for some reason. I told you on that.
Oh, I had the volume muted so you guys couldn't hear, and I had the TV off. We got the same one. We got the same one with math and reading. Yes. It's happened before, though, actually more often than...
Nice.
Okay, let me go back to the meat. All right, Cam, did you get that? I sent it on securely.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Josie, I sent you yours yesterday. Did you get it? Lucas, did I send you your score yesterday?
I don't know.
All right, I'll send it to you here in a little bit when everybody's not looking at the screen. Okay, yesterday, one of our activities, Jason, put it away. One of our activities, DJ, what are you doing? Put it away. All right, yesterday, at the end of the assignment, we were supposed to be talking about characters and character traits. So I want to rewind a little bit before we read today and do that, okay? So, who is our main character in the story? Parker, Pooh, you were like, Billy. All right, I'm going to use different colors for different characters. We're going to get old Billy here with a blue marker. Blue Billy. All right, class.
Billy.
Calm it down. All right, so I've got Billy. He is our... Y'all going to have to raise your hand to talk. Billy is our main character. What can we say about Billy? Give me some character traits about Billy. What kind of person is Billy? Kendall? He's country.
Kind.
Okay, he's kind. Country. Quit you shout him out. Hang on. Kind.
I don't know about that kind part.
Riley.
Adventurous.
Adventurous.
He's funny because other kids were keeping him.
Adventurous. Macy.
Determined.
Determined. I love that. Why do you say determined?
Because he wanted to give up on the dogs, but he didn't.
He never gave up on getting those dogs, even though it took 2 whole years. Have any of you ever stuck to a goal for 2 straight years?
I
The closest I could think of would be something about Sam Curley in baseball, and like continually working towards baseball. I haven't known Parker the whole 2 years, but I have known you for 2 years, and I know that you've been nothing but baseball ever since the day I met you.
What about Zeke?
I haven't known Zeke as long.
I have.
Okay. All right. What else I've got? He's a country kid. He's kind, adventurous, determined. Jason.
Accomplished.
Accomplished. He's accomplished now because he met his goal.
Dog lover too.
Dog lover.
A hillbilly. He's brave.
Hang on now. Hillbilly, is that a kind word that we should write down? Or was he even offended by it in the book? They straight called him that in the book. Maybe I'll put hillbilly in parentheses above country. But I like how Kendall worded it a little bit more like less offensively. Whatever. Shawnee Pooh, what do you think? Brave? Why do you say brave?
Because he walked through.
I'm asking Shawnee Pooh. Okay, so like when he was getting beat up by the kids. When else was another time he was brave in the story, Ezekiel? The mountain lion. Virtual friends, anything? Cam, you're unmuted. Do you have anything to add about Billy?
Billy is very imaginative.
Very what, Cam?
Imaginative.
Tell me about that.
He can imagine himself having 2 dogs before he actually does. He can imagine himself being happy with 2 dogs. So, and he can dream it, he can do it. He dreamed that he could get that money and buy him some dogs, and he did.
All right. Grayson, what did you say? Passionate. I would agree with that. All right. Anything else we want to say about dearest Billy? Jason?
Creative,
Creative.
because he had to come up with all those ideas to make the money.
Okay, he did. He had to figure out how he was going to meet his goal. Sam, what else?
How do you say grit?
Grit.
Yeah.
Grind. Like grind.
Like he was grinding to get there. I'm just gonna put he has grit. That's what they said in the book, and I don't know how else to word it because it just is what it is. Country kind, adventurous, determined, accomplished, dog lover, brave, imaginative, passionate, creative, has grit. Loving.
There's already
Caring.
dog lover. Wait, doesn't caring go with passionate?
Tell me about caring. What makes him so caring?
He cares about things.
Parker.
He got all those, he got a lot of candy for his sisters.
Yeah.
He got clothes for his dad. He got
Yeah, he got presents for all of his family. He wasn't only thinking of himself. He made sure that he used his money on others as well. Josie, what else?
Maybe courageous. I guess it's kind of like the other words, but
I like that. Courageous. He just took off without telling anybody, taking off across the wilderness. He literally just walked across the wilderness for like 30 miles. Wouldn't you just do that?
He told
Just pack a bag of a couple eggs and some meat and take off walking for 30 miles.
He told Grandpa.
He didn't tell Grandpa he was leaving. Grandpa knew where he went, but he didn't say, Grandpa, I'm on my way out.
He didn't
He didn't tell nobody.
parents, his sisters.
Sean.
I don't know. That wasn't 30 minutes. It was like
Sean.
thoughtful.
Thoughtful. Tell me about thoughtful.
He got for his family.
Okay.
And a lot about Billy.
Okay. Overall,
I have something to
is
go with
Billy, are these good adjectives and character traits? Overall, Billy seems to be a pretty good kid, right, Fiona? Anything else? Any last? What? Smart.
Yeah,
Agree. Kind of has like that street smart, or in this case, country smart. He knows how to get by and make do with what he has. We know that they're poor, they don't have a lot, but he knows how to make the best of what he's got. He doesn't think of himself as poor or that he doesn't have.
He's smart, like he knows exactly how to do farming things, and he knows he's like really determined with that. Also, he helps.
He's smart when it comes to the farm.
He's smart with like outdoors and farming things for sure. All right, who else is in our story?
Freckles, the kid that beat him up.
Okay, we're not gonna see that kid anymore. Who are some characters that we've seen multiple times so far? And I'm gonna put Old Dan and Little Ann at the very bottom because we met them yesterday, but we don't know a lot about them yet. Kaylee, who else have we seen in this story?
I know.
Papa, Papa.
I think I know what you're talking
Grandpa.
about. Miss Babs.
What does he call him?
Miss Babs.
Grandpa.
Miss Babs. I have somebody else.
Hang on, let's do Grandpa. All right, we're not going to spend this much time on Grandpa because he's not our main character, but give me some character traits of Grandpa, Jason.
I
I thought you had your hand raised.
I don't know what kind of word it would be, but he didn't tell Billy's parents where he went at first.
Not until Billy disappeared. He didn't tell anybody about Billy's secret until Billy actually disappeared and they came and asked, have you seen Billy? So loyal, maybe,
Yeah, loyal.
like he was loyal to Billy.
Yeah, he was able to. He didn't lie.
Right? So trustworthy.
He wasn't at. You ain't lying if you weren't asked.
Right. So I would say trustworthy. Like Billy knew he could trust his grandpa. All right. Loyal, trustworthy. Josie. And then I'll come to Kendall and then Maggie.
Caring or appreciative.
Okay. Tell me about appreciative.
He didn't like. He was very proud of Billy whenever he found out that he had been saving for 2 years, and he was very appreciative of him, and he like even cried. And then he's very caring with the candy, and he just throughout the story has
Okay.
nice things.
I like that. Kendall.
He's a hard worker.
Hard worker. Paul's a hard worker.
Yeah.
How do you know that, Kendall?
Because he's probably been working since he was a kid for the store.
Okay. And he owns his own store. So we know he is a hard working man. We kind of get the sense almost everybody we've met so far in the story is just a good, honest, hard working person. Maggie, what did you want to add?
I was gonna say Billy was honest, and wasn't he? He was being honest.
No.
Do we want to say Billy is honest?
I guess.
No, because it doesn't really tell.
No.
He didn't lie. He just wasn't upfront
He wasn't
about
asked, so he
things.
ain't
Nobody
lying.
asked him, "Are you going somewhere today?" So he didn't lie.
If you ain't asked,
But he wasn't exactly upfront with his parents. I don't know that makes him a dishonest person, but I don't know that it's enough to make honest like one of his star traits. Not yet. Let's keep an eye on that one though and see if that comes to be more. I'm gonna put
He did like one.
I'm gonna put it on there.
when did you lie?
Miss Pat, put Lucky by Billy.
He asked that
There's
question.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Why Lucky?
Because if
I
I,
got two people talking at once.
even though he's poor, if I actually won him $50 and I worked that hard, I could make $1,000 in 2 years. I actually can.
All right. Anything else about Grandpa? I've got loyal, trustworthy, caring, appreciative, hard worker. Anything else about Grandpa Macy?
He's lucky he found the Sportsman magazine and the dog
Okay.
at the tree.
Fiona,
Thoughtful.
thoughtful. I like that one. Tell me why you think Grandpa's thoughtful.
He's thoughtful because I'm sure that not a lot of grandpas would particularly. Not a lot of grandpas, like my grandpa, if I was to try and save up for money for a dog, my grandpa would immediately tell me, no, you can't go get the dog. You're going to have to tell your parents.
Okay.
And he's thoughtful, meaning he knows exactly, I think his grandpa was kind of the same position when he was a kid, wanting a dog, but he never completely got one. So now he's kind of thoughtful by saying, now you can go get a dog. I will
Okay.
order them for you.
I think I
Grayson.
know.
Sorry.
Big-hearted.
Big-hearted. Okay. Jason.
I have one for Billy.
So kind of what Fiona was saying. If you were gonna buy a dog, your parents would immediately say no. But he was like, I wanted one too, so I ain't gonna.
Okay.
I ain't
Now, I
gonna.
never mentioned that Grandpa wanted a dog when he was a kid.
No, I'm just saying. When
There's
he was
throwing in some
Yeah.
assuming there. I'm going to put another character up here. We're going to keep moving, otherwise we
The
won't even get
sheriff.
to today's
The
story.
sheriff.
The Marshall.
the sheriff.
Mom.
Yeah.
His mom.
We're not going to see the sheriff again. That was it.
How do you know? Oh
Because I've
yeah.
read this book.
And she cried.
Mom, tell me about Mom, DJ.
Well, I have another character trait for Billy, patient.
Patient. Yes, I do like patient for
I think
Billy.
he's lucky because he's found the Sportsman magazine with the cheap dogs.
Okay,
in it.
tell me about Mom.
Loving.
Loving, of course, she's Mom.
Kind.
Family focused.
She's what?
Family focused.
Family focused. Yes.
Obviously hardworking.
Hardworking, kind.
Karen.
And hardworking, kind. Hardworking, that's what I'm missing.
Making the best of things.
Okay.
Smart.
Somebody raised her.
Makes best of things.
Josie raised her hand.
Josie.
Maybe like forgiving or thankful.
Forgiving, yes. I think she is thankful for what they have. Again, even though they are poor, does anybody seem like they're sad about that? Or are they just thankful for the things that they do have?
They were the things that they do have.
They at
Right.
least have a roof over their head.
Right. Lily, what else?
She's selfless. She thinks about everyone else before she does herself.
I love that word, selfless. She puts everybody ahead of herself. Perfect. Kendall, Mama.
Imaginative because she thinks that one day she's imagining that she's having a lot of money and putting her family in a good.
Okay, I like that trait about her, but let's put it in a different word other than imaginative. How could we word that? I like that she has big plans for her family. She wants more for her family. Kaylee, how could we word that differently?
Maybe like hopeful.
Hopeful. There we go. Yes. Kendall, you are on the right track. I just wanted to word it a little bit differently. I was hoping somebody would, that was the main thing that stood out about her. Like she was hopeful. She wanted more for her family. She didn't want to settle for what they have. She's thankful for what they have, but she wants more for her kids. I think most moms want that. Kaylee, what else?
Maybe like emotional because when like Billy came back, like she like cried, like the dad didn't really like wasn't too emotional. He was just kind of like worried. All are very emotional.
Okay. Yep.
Wait, can we do dad?
Emotional. All right. And yep, we'll do dad. What do we know about dad? And then we're going to move on. And I'll put a spot for old Dan and little Ann, but we're going to do dad real quick and then we're done for this right now because we got to read today's chapter.
I have something for your dad.
All right. Give me something for dad.
Mule loving.
Mule loving. I'm not writing that.
He wanted.
It did say he wanted a mule, but
He
that
was
doesn't like it's because he needs the work on the farm. I don't know that he loves a mule like Billy loves a puppy. Grayson.
mule wanting.
So, it's like my dad, where he may look
That's
tough
not
on
a
the
character trait.
outside, but he's actually really big-hearted on the inside.
Okay. Tough on the outside, soft on the inside.
That's what my dad is.
Mule
Okay.
farming.
Because he always tells me about whenever he was a kid, he didn't have much.
So I'm gonna put tough exterior. Exterior is outside.
And interior.
Soft interior. Good.
He wants us to have everything.
Miss
He wants us
Bab.
to have stuff that he didn't have.
Right.
Mule farming.
That's not a character trait. Josie.
He's obviously very hardworking.
Yes, very hardworking. What else do we know about dad? Anything else about dad yet? Intelligent. How do you know dad's intelligent?
Because he's smart enough to like live out in the mountains with nothing.
Okay. How to raise a family out in the mountains with nothing. Intelligent.
Well, what could we say for him wanting a second
Macy.
mule?
Okay, I'll come back to you. Grayson.
So he wants stuff for his kid, like I said earlier. So maybe like
He did.
courageous, the word for that.
What is it?
Courageous.
Courageous. I don't know that goes with that. What did we use? We used hopeful for mom, selfless and hopeful for mom to kind of describe that. Do we feel like dad's kind of the same in that way? Okay, so we'll put those for him as well. Selfless. Hopeful. Is dad loving? Is he? We put that he has the soft inside, like that he's actually just a big old teddy bear inside. Do we think dad is loving? Fiona, what do you think?
I think he's kind of loyal. I mean, he's put so much hard work into the farm, and he's putting so much more into his family.
Loyal, I like that. Josie, what else?
Family.
Do they have? Do we have thoughtful on there?
For Dad? No, we don't have thoughtful for Dad yet. Okay. All right, we're going to pause there so that we have time to actually get through today's chapter. I am going to put
What about his sisters?
that we can maybe add them later. I'm going to write Old Dan and Little Ann on here, and then as we know more about them on a different day, we will add them to our poster. And we're going to keep coming back to this throughout the book and see if any of these characters have any growth or change throughout the story, because probably they will. Ooh, I don't like that shade of purple.
Yes, but we know that Old Dan is a fire, like a strong dog, and Little Ann is a smart dog.
Okay.
One's got brains, one's got muscles.
All right, we do know that. You are correct, Kendall. Okay, so Little Ann is little, but she's smart.
Why is her name bigger than?
She's intelligent.
No.
Okay, I've got little and smart, and we know that Old Dan, it said, was strong, but he's kind of like,
Stupid.
no, I don't know.
Strong and pathetic.
There you go.
Pathetic.
No, he's not pathetic at all.
Scared.
No, he's just,
What's
like he throws caution away, like he's not careful. Careless. There you go.
What did Josie say?
Although, so we'll put that for now because it kind of described him as that right now. We're definitely going to keep an eye on those character traits.
What did Josie say?
Josie, sorry. Go ahead, Josie.
Rambunctious or like playful?
Yes. Both of them or just Old Dan?
Oh, Old Dan is brave.
I was going more for Old Dan.
For Old Dan, okay.
Yeah, but Little
And
Ann
he said
playful
brave
too.
for Old Dan. Why is Old Dan brave?
He's the one that stepped outside and was
Close to the
staring at the mountain lion.
Okay, he was barking and it said he was bawling. Bawling is like that kind of bark that a hound dog does when it hits each other, like, bark, bark, bark. It's exciting stuff, Miss Bab, bawling like a hound dog. All right, here we go. We're on chapter 7 today, guys. It seems that the worries and wants of a young boy never cease. Now that I had my pups, another obstacle had cropped up. This one looked absolutely impossible. I had to have a coonskin so I could train them. With my 3 little traps and a bulldog determination, I set out to trap Mr. Ringtail. Who's Mr. Ringtail?
The raccoon.
The raccoon, you're right, so, okay. For 3 solid weeks, I practically lived on the river. I tried every trick I knew. It was no use. I just couldn't catch any wily old coons. In desperation, what does wily mean? What do you think? Any wily old coons? This is a vocabulary word on your sheet. Do what? Frisky?
No, tricky.
Tricky? Yes. Wily old coon, a tricky old coon, okay? Where was I? Okay, in desperation, I went to my grandfather. He smiled as he listened to my tale of woe. Well, we'll have to do something about that, he said. To train those dogs right, you'll need that coon hide, that's for sure. Now, you watch the store while I go over to my tool shed. I'll be right back. After what seemed like an eternity, I saw him coming. He was carrying a brace and bit, that was all, with a mischievous little smile on his face. He said, "You wouldn't think a fellow could catch a coon with this brace and bit, would you?" I thought he was kidding me, and it made me feel bad. "Why, Grandpa," I said, "you couldn't catch a coon in a jillion years with that thing. You just don't have any idea how smart they are." "Yes, you can," he said. "You bet your boots you can. Why, when I was a boy, I caught coons on top of coons with one of these things." I saw Grandpa was serious, and I got interested. He laid the brace down on the counter, picked up a small paper sack, and filled it about half full of horseshoe nails. "Now, you do everything exactly as I tell you," he said, "and you'll catch that coon." "Yes, sir, Grandpa," I said, "I will. I'll do anything to catch one of them." "Now, the first thing you'll need is some bright objects," he said. "The best thing is bright, shiny tin. Cut out some little round pieces, a little smaller than this bit. Do you understand?" I nodded my head. Now, he said, you go down along the river where there are a lot of coon tracks. Find a good solid log close by and bore a hole down about 6 inches. So drill a hole down into a log. Okay?
So is bore one of
Like a
our
wood board.
vocabs?
Mm-mm.
Bore is
Like hollow
like if you
out.
think of a wood board, they like
I mean,
bore into the wood.
Yeah, it like digs in and like hollows it out.
my
Okay.
papa and mama, my papa, he does stuff around. We have a farm there. We have lots of animals.
Okay. So he needs to find shiny tin. He needs to go find a log where the coons are and bore a hole, hollow out a big hole. And be sure it's laying right on the bottom. I was all ears. I didn't want to miss one word my grandfather said. Now and then I would glance at him to see if he was kidding me. In a serious voice, he went on talking. Now play close attention, he said, because this is the main part of the trap. With eyes as big as a hoot owl's, I looked and I listened. He took 4 of the horseshoe nails from the sack. With the thumb and forefinger of his left hand, he made a small O about the size of the bit, which was about 1.5 inches in diameter. Now, we'll say this is the hole you bored in the log, he said. About 1 inch apart, drive these nails in on a slant opposite each other. So in the hole, but going like this way and this way, okay? Holding one of the nails in his right hand, he showed me the right angle. The ends of the nails will enter the hole about halfway between the top and the piece of tin, he continued. Leave an opening between the sharp points big enough for a coon to get his paw through. He asked me if I understood. Again, I nodded my head and moved a little closer to him. How's this going to catch a coon, Grandpa? I asked. It'll catch him all right, he said, and it won't fail. You see, a coon is a curious little animal. Anything that is bright and shiny attracts him. He'll reach in and pick it up. When his paw closes on the bright object, it balls up. And when he starts to pull it from the hole, the sharp ends of the nail will gouge into his paw and he's caught. He looked over at me. Well, what do you think of it? He asked. I closed my eyes and in my mind I could see the funnel-like entrance of the hole and the sharp slanting points of the nails. I could see the coon reaching in for a shiny piece of metal. Naturally, his paw would be much larger when he closed it than when he reached in. It would be impossible for it to pass the sharp nails. It was all looking pretty good to me, and I was on the point of saying so then when it hit me. Well, all the coon had to do was open his paw, drop the object, and he was free. It all blew up then and there. I just knew my grandfather was playing a joke on me. I stepped back and almost cried. I said, Grandpa, you're kidding me. That kind of trap couldn't catch a coon. Well, all he'd have to do is open his paw, drop the piece of tin, and he could pull it from the hole. Grandpa started roaring with laughter. This did make me feel bad. With tears in my eyes, I started for the door. Wait a minute, Grandpa said. I'm not kidding you. Oh, I know I like to have my jokes, same as any man, but I meant every word I said. I turned around and looked at him. He had stopped laughing, and there was a hurt expression on his face. I wasn't laughing at you, he said. I was laughing more at myself than you. I just wanted to see if you were smart enough to see that there was a way the coon could free himself. Fellow wouldn't have to be very smart to see that, I said. Grandpa started talking serious again. You know, he said, a coon has more than one peculiarity about him. When I was a boy, I had a pet coon. By watching him, I saw and learned a lot of things. I'm going to pause right here for just a second. I want to make sure you guys are picturing what Grandpa is talking about right now.
Well, now, wait, never mind.
So he says to, this is a terrible, so we got a log and we got it standing upright, but he says to bore a hole in it. So he's going to dig, closer for you guys, dig a hole down in this log, okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
And then they're going to put the shiny piece of tin, like think like something shiny like aluminum foil, like if you opened a can of vegetables or something at home and you took the lid of the can, shiny, you just stick it down in there. The raccoon wants the shiny thing. Well, but they've stuck nails down like this. Okay, maybe not that deep. So the raccoon puts his paw in there. That's the most terrible raccoon paw I've ever seen.
That's the longest one.
To grab the tin. But remember, these are pointy nails. And then obviously if you hold your hand like this, you can squeeze it through something. But if you're like this, when he goes to pull it back up, it's going to get caught on those nails. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What this trap is going to be like. And so he's just going to be sitting there holding on to the piece of tin with his hand stuck in the log. And
It's gonna be kind of like our cat, where it's like.
But Billy says the stupid coon just needs to let go of it and pull his hand out. Duh, Grandpa.
But yet the coon's still gonna want it.
But the coon still wants it. You are right.
He's gonna come back for it because
Okay, here we go. All right. He had a den in an old hollow tree in our front yard. This is his pet coon, Grandpa's pet coon. I don't know the number of times I'd have to climb that tree and get my mother's scissors, buttons, needles, and thimble from her den. Why, he'd even carry out our knives, forks, and spoons. Anything that was bright and shiny, he took to his den. Grandpa stopped talking for a few minutes. I could see a faraway look in his eyes. Once again, he was living in those long ago days. I waited in silence for him to go on with the story. One of the most peculiar things about that coon, he said, was his front teeth. Front feet. Once he wrapped those little paws around something, he would never let go. My mother had an old churn, which is a thing that, like, back in the day, they made like butter with. Okay. It was one of those kind with a small hole in the lid for the dasher, which is the big pole part. When she would get through churning, she would take the dasher out to wash it. That crazy coon would climb up on top of the churn, poke his little front paw through the hole, and get a fistful of butter. The hole was small, and when he closed his paw, he couldn't get it back out. All he had to do was open it and drop the butter, and he would be free. But do you think he would? No, sir. He would carry that churn lid all over the house, squalling and growling. Why, it'd take everyone in the house to free him. I'd have to wrap him up in a gunny sack or an old coat and pry his claws loose from the butter. Seeing this time after time is what gave me the idea for this trap. Once he reaches in and gets hold of that tin, he's caught, because he will never open his paw. With my confidence restored, it all sounded pretty good to me, and I was anxious to try out this wonderful plan. I thanked him, and taking the brace and nails, I left the store. The longest chapter ever. By the time I reached home, it was too late in the day to start making my traps. That night, I talked the idea over with Papa. I've heard of coons being caught that way, he said, but I never paid much attention to it. Your grandfather should know, though. He was quite a coon hunter when he was a boy. From what he told me, I said, it never fails. Papa asked if I wanted him to help make the traps. No, I said, I think I can do it myself. I didn't sleep too well that night. I bored holes, drove nails, and fought coons practically all night in his head. Early the next morning, I went to the trash pile. As I stirred around in the rusty old cans, I found another time I had searched for a can. Finally, I found the one I wanted. It was bright and shiny. Everything was going along just fine until Mama caught me cutting out the circles of tin with her scissors. I always swore she could find the biggest switches of any woman in the Ozarks. That time she overdid it. I was almost to the river before the stinging stopped. Why did she whoop him for using her scissors to cut a tin can?
Metal isn't good because it can like stick it up.
Yeah, it messes up the scissors. It'll dull the scissors down and mess them up. You can't cut metal with metal. It doesn't work like that. Not that kind of metal, anyway.
Remember, like in Hatchet, he was throwing his hatchet. And
Right, just like in Hatchet, text-to-text connection. Good, Kendall, when he was using the hatchet to cut the plane open. Good, really good. Okay. All right. It wasn't hard to find places for my traps. All along the river, large sycamore logs lay partly submerged in the clear blue water. On one where I could see the muddy little tracks of the ringtails, I bored a hole, dropped in a piece of tin, and drove my nails. On down the river I went, making my traps. I stopped when I ran out of nails. Altogether, I had 14 traps. That night, Papa asked me how I was making out. Oh, all right, I said. I've got 14 of them made. He laughed and said, well, you can't ever tell. You may catch one. The next morning, I was up with the chickens. I took my pups with me, and I just knew I'd have a big ringtail trap, and I wanted them to see it. I was a disappointed boy when I peeked out of the canebrake at my last trap and didn't see a coon. All the way home, I tried to figure out what I had done wrong. I went to Papa. He put his thinking cap on and thought the situation over. Maybe you left too much scent around when you made those traps, he said. If you did, it'll take a while for it to go away. No, I wouldn't get too impatient. I'm pretty sure you'll catch one sooner or later. Papa's words perked me up just a little, like air does a deflated inner tube. He was right. I had simply left too much scent around my traps. All I had to do was wait till it disappeared, and I'd have my coon hide. Morning after morning, it was the same old disappointment. No coon. When a week had gone by and still no results from my traps, I gave up. What little patience I had was completely gone. I was firmly convinced that coons didn't walk on sycamore logs anymore, and bright, shiny objects had about as much effect on them as a coonhound would. One morning, I didn't get up to run my trap line. I stayed in bed. What was the use? It was just a waste of time. When the family sat down to breakfast, I heard my oldest sister say, Mama, isn't Billy going to get up for breakfast? Why, is he in his room? Mama asked. I didn't know. I thought he was down looking at his traps. I heard Papa say, I'll go wake him up. He came to the door and said, you better get up, Billy. Breakfast is ready. I don't want any breakfast, I said. I'm not hungry. Papa took one look at me and saw I had a bad case of the ringtail blues. He came over and sat down on the bed. What's the matter? He asked. You having coon trouble? Yeah, Maggie. Mm-hmm. Grandpa lied to me, Papa, I said. Yeah, you can. I should have known better. Who ever heard of anyone catching a coon with a brace and bit and a few horseshoe nails? I wouldn't say that, Papa said. I don't think your grandpa deliberately lied to you. Besides, I have heard of coons being caught that way. Well, I don't think I've done anything wrong, I said. I've done everything exactly as he said, and I haven't caught one yet. I still think it's a scent, Papa said. You know, someone told me, or I read it somewhere, that it takes about a week for a scent to die away. How long's it been since you made those traps? Over a week, I said. Well, the way I figure, it's about time for you to catch one then. Yes, sir, I wouldn't be surprised if you came in with one any day now. After Papa had left the room, I lay thinking of what he had said. Any day now. I got up and hurried into my clothes. As soon as I was finished with breakfast, I called my pups and lit out for the river. The first trap was empty. So was the second one. That old feeling of doubt came over me again. I thought, it's no use. I'll never catch one, and I so need the skin to train my pups. On the way to my third trap, I had to walk through a thick stand of wild cane. It was tough going, and my pups started whimpering. I stopped and picked them up. We'll be out of this in a few minutes, I said, and then you'll be all right. I came plowing out of the matted mess and was right on the trap before I realized it. I was met by a loud squall. I was so surprised I dropped the pups. There he was, my first coon.
What about the pups? They're still young. Did that hurt them?
Nah, probably not. He was humped up on the sycamore log, growling and showing his teeth. He kept jerking his front paw, which was jammed deep in the hole I'd bored. He was trapped by his own curiosity. I couldn't move, and I felt like my wind had been cut off. I kept hearing a noise, but couldn't make out what it was. The movement of the boy pup shook me from my trance. The unidentified sound was his bawling. He was trying to climb up on the log and get to the coon. I yelled at him and darted in to get hold of his collar. On seeing my movement, the coon let out another squall. It scared me half to death. I froze in my tracks and started yelling again at my pup. The girl pup worked around behind the coon and climbed up on the log. I screamed at her. She paid no attention to me. Digging his sharp little claws in the bark, the boy pup made up to the top. He didn't hesitate. Straight down that sycamore log he charged. With teeth bared, the coon waited. When my pup was about 2 feet from him, he made a lunge. The coon just seemed to pull my pup under his stomach and went to work with the tooth and claw. The girl pup saved him. Like a cat in a corn crib, she sneaked in from behind and sank her needle-sharp teeth in the coon's back. It was too much for old Ringy. He turned the boy pup loose, turned around, and slapped her clear off the log. She came running to me, yelping her head off. I grabbed her up in my arms and looked for the boy pup. When the coon had turned him loose, he too had fallen off the log. He was trying to get back to the coon. I darted in and grabbed him by the hind leg. With a pup under each arm and running as fast as I could, I lit out for the house. Coming out of the bottoms into a fresh plowed field, I set my pups down so I could get a little more speed. I started yelling as soon as I came inside of the house. Mama came flying out with my sisters right behind her. Papa was out by the barn harnessing his team. Mama yelled something to him about a snake. He dropped the harness, jumped over a rail fence, and the long rope started pulling. Mama reached me first. She grabbed me and shouted, "Where did it bite you?" "Bite me?" I said. "Why, Mama, I'm not bit. I've got him, Mama. I've got him." "Got what?" Mama asked. "A big coon," I said. "The biggest one in the river bottoms. He's this big, Mama." And I made a circle with my arms as big as a 20-gallon keg.
Wow. That's a big cone.
That's a big coon. Do we think the coon's maybe not that big?
No.
I thought it was just the size.
Maybe exaggerating.
I thought it was
Hyperbole
like
here.
the size of a raccoon.
A raccoon's like,
I know.
even a big raccoon's
I've
probably
seen two
like
raccoons in my house.
this. Lily, Mama just groaned way down deep and covered her face with her hands. Some big tears squeezed out between her fingers. Almost in a whisper, I heard her say, "Thank God, I thought you were snake bitten." My sister, seeing Mama crying, puckered up and started bawling. He needs a whipping, the oldest one said. That's what he needs, scaring Mama that way. Something busted loose inside me, and I cried a little too. I didn't mean to scare Mama, I sniffed. I just wanted everyone to know I caught a coon. Up until this time, Papa hadn't said a word. He just stood looking on. Here now, he said, let's have none of this crying. He didn't mean to scare anyone. Taking his handkerchief from his pocket, he stepped over to Mama, put his arm around her, and started drying her eyes. Mama poked her head around him and glared at me. Billy Coleman, she said, if you ever scare me like that again, I'll take a switch and wear you to a frazzle. This hurt my feelings, and I really did get tuned up. Everyone's mad at me, I said, and I haven't done anything but catch the biggest coon on the river. Mama came over. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to be cross, but you did scare me. I thought a rattlesnake had bitten you. Now that that's all settled, Papa said, we had better go get that coon. Looking at Mama, he said, why don't you and the girls go with us? I don't think it'll take long. Mama looked at me, smiled, and turned to the girls. Would you like to go? She asked. Their only answer was a lot of squealing and jumping up and down. On the way, Mama noticed some blood on my shirt. She stopped me and started looking me over. Where did that come from? Did that coon bite you? No, Mama, I said. I didn't get close enough for him to bite me. With a worried look on her face, she jerked out my shirt. You don't seem to be scratched anywhere, she said. Maybe this is where it came from, Papa said. He reached down and picked up my boy pup. His little black nose was split wide open and was bleeding. Aww. I saw a relieved look come over Mama's face. Looking at me, she started shaking her head. I don't know, she said. I just don't know. Did that coon get a hold of this pup? Papa asked. He sure did, Papa, I said, but it wasn't the coon's fault. If it hadn't been for little Ann, he'd have eaten him up. I told how my dogs had tied into the coon. Papa laughed as he fondled my pup. This dog is going to be a coon hound, he said, and I mean a good one. The coon started squalling as soon as we came in sight. My goodness, Mama said, you wouldn't think anything so small would be so vicious. Papa picked up a club. Now everyone stand back out of the way, he said. This won't take long. What's Papa going to do with that club?
No, if I were the Papa, I would let
Whack him.
do it. I would let Billy do it because they're Billy's dog that he works for. And
Oh, so Jason said he should let Billy do it. Well,
because Billy works for those coons, and
good Lord, this chapter's long.
that coon, Billy works for his hounds, and that coon just split one's nose open. And we don't know what happened to little Ann.
My pups were wanting to get to the coon so badly that they were hard to hold. I had to squeeze them up tight to keep them from jumping right out of my arms. My sisters, with eyes as big as blue marbles, got behind Mama and peeked around her. Papa whacked the coon a good one across the head. He let out a loud squall, growled, and showed his teeth. He tried hard to get to Papa, but the trap held him. The girls buried their faces in Mama's dress and started bawling. Mama turned her back on the fight. I heard her say, I wish we hadn't come, poor thing. Papa whacked him again, and it was all over.
Cool.
It was too much for Mama and the girls. They left. I heard the tall cane rattling as they ran for the house. After the coon was killed, I walked over. Papa was trying to get the coon's paw from the trap. He couldn't do it. Taking a pair of pliers from his pocket, he said, it's a good thing I had these along, or we would have had to cut his foot off. After Papa had pulled the nails, he lifted the coon's paw from the hole. There, clamped firmly in it, was the bright piece of tin. In a low voice, Papa said, well, I'll be darned. All he had to do was open it up and he was free, but he wouldn't do it. Your grandpa was right. Yeah, kid? Yeah. A sorrowful look came over Papa's face as he ran his fingers through his soft yellow hair. Billy, he said, I want you to take a hammer and pull the nails from every one of those traps. It's summertime now and their fur isn't any good. Besides, I don't think this is very sportsmanlike. The coon doesn't have a chance. It's all right this time. You needed this one. But from now on, I want you to catch them with your dogs. That way they have 50-50 chance. I will, Papa, I said. That's what I intended to do. While we were skinning the coon, Papa asked me when I was going to start training my dogs. I don't know, I said. Do you think they're too young? No, I don't think so, he said. I've heard that the younger they are, the better it is. Well, in that case, I said, I'll start tomorrow. With the help of my oldest sister, we started giving my pups their first lessons. She would hold their collars while I made trails with the hide for them to follow. I'd climb trees that leaned out over the river, jump out into the water, swim to the other side, and make trails up and down the bank. With a long pole and wire, I'd drag the hide on top of rail fences, swing it through the air, and let it touch the ground 20 feet, 30 feet away. I did everything with that hide a coon would do, and probably a lot of things a coon couldn't do. It was a beautiful sight to see my pups work those trails. At first, they were awkward and didn't know what to do, but they would never quit trying. Old Dan would get so eager and excited, he would overrun a trail. Where it twisted or turned, he would run straight on, bawling up a storm. It didn't take him long to realize that a smart old coon didn't always run in a straight line. Little Ann never overran a trail. She would wiggle and twist, cry and whine, and pretty soon she'd figure it out. At first, they were afraid of water. I never would admit it, even to myself. I always said that they just didn't like to get wet. They would follow the trail to the stream and stop. Sitting down on the rears, they would cry and beg for help. With a pup under each arm, I'd wade out into the stream and set them down in the cool water. 9 times out of 10, one pup would swim one way and the other would just go the opposite way. I had a time with this part of their training, but my persistence had no bounds. It wasn't long until they loved the water. Old Dan would jump out as far as he could and practically knock the river dry. Little Ann would ease herself in and swim like a muskrat for the opposite shore. I taught my dogs every trick I knew and any new ones I heard about. I taught them how to split up on a riverbank to search for the hidden trail because it was impossible to tell where a coon would come out of the water. Sometimes he might swim downstream and otherwise he might swim upstream. Maybe he would come back to the bank he had just left, or he would cross over to the other side. Perhaps he would stop in the middle of the stream on an old drift. Sometimes he would come out of the water by catching the dangling limbs of a leaning birch and climbing up, never touching the bank. Or he could come out on the same trail he used to go in and backtrack. He would sometimes crawl up under an undermined bank or into an old muskrat den.
What is a muskrat?
It's like a beaver type little animal.
Oh.
One of the favorite tricks of a smart old ringtail is the tree barking trick. This he accomplished by running far up onto the side of a tree and using his stout legs for leverage, springing 20 or 30 feet away before touching the ground. Dumb hounds trail up to the tree and start bawling treat. I taught my dogs to circle for a good 100 yards to be sure he was still in the tree before bawling. So what he's saying is, I lost my marker. The raccoon, let's just say this is a tree now. The raccoon will run and jump up on the tree and then
Climb up into
and then
the
just
hole.
jump straight off. So he's not landing on the trail. He's landing somewhere else. So they're following this scent and they think, ooh, he's in the tree, but he bounces off the tree and goes in a different direction.
That's pretty smart.
Smart for the raccoon, yeah.
I did go on the top of the tree and jump
Kind
off.
of
Okay.
like these videos.
In order to learn more about coon, in order to learn more about coon hunting, I'd hang around my grandfather's store and listen to the stories told by the coon hunters. Some of the tales I heard were long and tall, but I believed them all. I could always tell when Grandpa was kidding me by the twinkle in his eyes. He told me how a coon could climb right up the fog and disappear in the stars, and how he could leap on a horse's back and run him over your dogs. I didn't care, for I loved to hear the tall tales. Anything that had coon hair in it, I believed completely. All through that summer and into the late fall, the training went on. Although I was worn down to a frazzle, I was a happy boy. I figured I was ready for the ringtails. Late one evening, tired and exhausted, I sat down by a big sycamore and called my dogs over to me. It's all over, I said. There'll be no more lessons. I've worked hard and I've done my best. From now on, it's all up to you. Hunting season is just a few days away, and I'm going to let you rest, for I want you to be in good shape the night it opens. It was wonderful indeed how I could have heart-to-heart talks with my dogs, and they always seemed to understand. Each question I asked was answered in their own doggish way. Although they couldn't talk in my terms, they had a language of their own that was easy to understand. Sometimes I would see the answer in their eyes, and again it would be in the friendly wagging of their tails. Other times I could hear the answer in a low whine or feel it in the soft caress of a warm flicking tongue. In some way, they would always answer. All right, that was a super long. Some of the chapters, about half of the chapters from here on out are equally that long. Whew, we made it. Okay, hunting season's about to open and the dogs are trained.
Miss Brown.
Get excited. Now we're going to get good.
Miss
It's going to
Brown.
get good
I
now.
don't think we have the worksheet.
And I'm not going to assign it. So,
Why aren't you assigning our work?
why aren't I assigning the worksheet? Because we straight out of time, yo. We spent a lot of time talking about the characters. So, here's what I'll do. Why does Billy's grandfather need a brace and bit to catch the raccoon? We're just going to talk through them real quick. Kendall.
So, the bit can.
All right. Kane.
Russians love shiny things, so he put that in there so they would be curious and they would try to grab it.
Yeah, because he loves the shiny thing, and once he's got it, he's just not going to let go.
Miss
Why does
Brown.
Billy think Grandpa is joking? Zekel.
Because it seems like a stretch that, like, the coon would, like, Billy had no idea that the coon wouldn't let go because coons, like, Grandpa made it, like, so, like, the coons are so persistent of what they want, and they won't let go of it.
Right. It seems stupid because it's obvious to us, just let it go and you can get your hand out. Like, it seems obvious to us, but, like, it's hard to think that the coon wants it so bad, it just will not let go.
He'll die for smart.
Right, like the coon will literally like die for it because
He
he'll
did
stay
die
there
for
until
it.
well, he did die for it in this case. But even if he hadn't come and got whacked, he's not going to let it go. He would have eventually starved or something because he's not going to leave to go eat. He's going to keep.
Or he would have figured out how to get his paw out.
Okay, according to Papa, why wasn't Billy able to catch any coons in the beginning? Sean, his scent was all over out there, and so the coons were staying away. Okay. Why does Billy desperately need this coon skin for his traps? Right. To train his dogs. What did he do with the coon skins to help train them?
It smells like a coon, so the
It does smell like a coon. What did he do with the coon skin?
He basically like rubbed it on the line to see if the dogs would be able to find where he was.
Right. He took the coon skin, he hooked it to like a wire and stick, and he like drug it all around the ground, up the fence, up the trees to see if the dogs would follow that scent everywhere. Okay.
never got into the water.
Well, he can drag it through the water, and then it said because a coon will actually run into the water, and that's going to happen later. I'll just tell you that.
Thanks for spoilers.
That's what
Well, I didn't tell you what happened.
That's what I
You
think.
told
the
me
It'll
other-
happen a lot actually in the story. They're going to be chasing coons starting in the next chapter, and I will say that the whole middle chunk that we're about to enter of this story is intense.
Oh,
Every day you guys are going to be on the edge of your seat like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
I think my mama read
There's so much more in the book, right, that isn't in the movie. There's so much more in the book that isn't in the movie. Okay.
What is the movie called?
Where the red fern grows. Yes. Unlike Hatchet, they weren't embarrassed to name this Where the Red Fern Grows. It's close to the book. It just leaves out quite a few of the little adventures he has with his pups. It puts the main ones in there, but it leaves out a bunch of the
Is
smaller
there
adventures.
even a red fern?
There is a red fern in this book. There.
Okay.
I'm going to hit stop record. That was, the vocab words. We talked about Wiley. Because let's talk about vocab, because that was the thing that everybody missed on their test. Everybody missed some vocab pretty much, except for like the 2-3 people that got 100. Okay. But if you missed some, you missed some vocab, right?
I did.
Raise your hand if you missed vocab on the test.
I don't know.
It was like everybody. Did I grade yours? I graded yours.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
yesterday. Okay.
I got a face.
Wiley means that he was kind of tricky, rambunctious. Wily Raccoon, tricky, rambunctious.
I think I'm
Frazzled. Mama said she was going to beat Billy to a frazzle. What did that mean?
Like, it's like a weird down little like scrawny thing.
Like a wore down, tore up little thing. She's going to beat him till there wasn't nothing left. Don't confuse it with Mrs. Frizzle. Not the same thing.
That's what I thought of.
When I heard the word frazzle, I would think of Miss Frizzle. All right. And churn. Churn. That's the butter.
Something you use to churn butter.
Something you use to create butter. It looked like kind of a big wooden barrel with a big long stick sticking out of it, and they
Wait,
turn it.
what?
Miss Pepper, there's like
You can do a churn can be a noun, like the actual thing that holds the butter that you use, or the action of doing that is also called
turning
churn.
your legs when you're running, like keep turning your legs.
Yes. Kind of because when they use that because you're in constant
It's
motion,
kinda
like as
like
if you were churning
A movement?
butter.
Yeah, like
There you go,
it's
recycle those for me. All right, guys, I'm gonna hit stop record. Those were our 3 vocab words. And that's it. I'm gonna stop record. And even though it's 9 o'clock, we don't behave that way. Good Lord, temper tantrum. How old are you?
Are we just going straight to math?